Hi there, Mr. Sutton here with the IM3 Honors 4-4 Part 1 Homework Solutions on Quadratic Systems. To find the point of intersection for this system, we have to solve the system, and I'm going to use substitution method because I have y isolated in not one but two equations here. So I'm just going to replace this y over here with the 4 minus 2x that this y equals. So 4 minus 2x equals that quadratic on the right. And since I do have linear terms in here, I'm going to have to get everything over to one side and either factor or use quadratic formula. So let me leave the x squared where it is, and I'll move everything else over to the right side. So adding 2x over here, negative 6x plus 2x is negative 4x. And then subtracting 4 over here, 8 minus 4 gives us a positive 4. This looks like I could factor it. We need factors of 4 that add up to negative 4. Well, you've got 1 and 4. That's not going to work. The only other choice is 2 and 2. If I made negative 2 and negative 2 my factors, well, that adds up to negative 4. So I could just write then x minus 2 times x minus 2, or just simply x minus 2 quantity squared equals 0. So then x is going to equal 2 to zero out that factor. And I just have to plug this back into one of my equations to find the y value. I'm going to go with this equation on the left. It looks a lot nicer to work with. So we have y equals 4 minus 2 times 2. That's really 4 minus 4, which is 0. So that gives me the point 2 comma 0 as my answer, my only answer. To solve this system of equations, I see here that all this stuff here, negative x minus 6 equals y. So I'm going to replace the y over here with negative x minus 6. And since I've got linear terms, let me just get everything over to one side and maybe factor it if I can. So I'll leave the x squared where it is. I'll add this x over here to be with the 6x. That gives me plus 7x. And then let me add the 6 over there as well. This is definitely something I could factor. Factors of 6 that add up to 7, well, 1 and 6 would do it. So we have x plus 1 and x plus 6, which means my x values, if I set each of these equal to 0 and solve, we're going to have negative 1 for that first parentheses and negative 6 for the second parentheses. At this point, I have to plug each of these into one of these equations to find the y value. I'm going to go with the first equation. It looks a little bit less messy. So I've got negative 1 minus 6 equaling y. If I plug in this negative 1 for x, that's 1 minus 6, which is a y value of negative 5. So that gives me the point negative 1 comma negative 5. And now plugging negative 6 in here, that's negative 6 minus 6. That's really positive 6 minus 6, which is 0. So that's going to give me the point negative 6 comma 0 as my second answer. To solve this quadratic system, we're going to go ahead and use the substitution method to plug in 14 minus 6x for this y over here. Since these both equal y, they equal each other. And now that I've got one quadratic equation with only x's, let me go ahead and solve that. Since I have linear terms, I'm going to go ahead and move everything to one side. So I'm going to keep the x squared where it is, and I'm going to move this 6x over here. So I've got 10x plus 6x, that gives me 16x. And then we have a 78 minus this 14 that I'm moving over here. So that's going to be 64, plus 64. And I'm going to move the 0 over to the right side because I don't feel like writing 0 equals all that stuff. So now this looks like something I could factor. In fact, we've got a perfect square sandwich here, an x squared and a 64, which is 8 squared. So using my little shortcut, this might be x plus 8 quantities squared if I square root the x squared and the 64. But let me just double check. If I multiply x and 8 together and double that, I do get 16x. So this is good. So now let me just set x plus 8 equal to 0 and solve. That's going to be x equals negative 8. And now that I found x, I need to find y. To find that, let me go ahead and plug negative 8 in to one of these equations that we started with. I'm going to pick this first one. It looks a lot easier to work with. So y is going to be 14 minus 6 times negative 8. Well, that's really 14 plus 48, which is going to be 62. So then my final answer is the point negative 8 comma 62. To solve this system, I'm going to start by taking this 11x plus 18 that y equals and substituting it for the y over in this second equation. like so. And now I only have x's, and I can solve this equation for x. It's a quadratic, and it looks like we have linear terms, so I'm going to move everything over to one side, and then either factor or use quadratic formula. Let me keep x squared right where it is, and then I'll move the 11x over here to the right. So I've already got an 8x over there. 8x minus the 11x that I'm moving over is going to be negative 3x. And then let me subtract 18 to get it over there, so that's going to be a minus 18. And I'll put the 0 over here on the right just so it doesn't look weird. All right, so I've got an a value here of 1. Let me try factoring this. We're looking for factors of negative 18 that add up to negative 3. So we've got 1 and 18, that's not going to work. 2 and 9 doesn't work. How about 3 and 6? Well, if I had positive 3 and negative 6, that would add up to negative 3. So I can factor this into x plus 3, x minus 6. And then setting each of these equal to 0 and solving, I see that x has a value of negative 3 for that first parentheses, or positive 6 to 0 out that second parentheses. Let me take each of these x values now and plug them into one of these equations to find the y value that goes with it. And I'm going to use this first equation since I don't have to mess around with squaring things. So let me use negative 3 first. I'm going to write y equals 11 times negative 3 plus 18. Well, that's negative 33 plus 18, which is negative 15. So that gives us the point negative 3 comma negative 15 as one of our answers. Now let me plug 6 into that equation up there. So we have 11 times 6 plus 18. That's 66 plus 18, which is going to be 84. So that gives me the point 6 comma 84 for my second answer.